and welcome to our recap of the Day 6 events here in Toronto, Canada. We had tons of decisive games today. Let's take a look at the results. In the open side, Vidit and Pragg took down the losers from yesterday, Alireza Firouzja and Nijat Abasov. The other two games finished in draws, including a fairly quick and bloodless draw in the game between Nepo and Caruana. Gukesh versus Hikaru provided a little bit more things to analyze. So Jan is still at the top of the scoreboard along with Gukesh. They're tied for first to second, followed by Pragg and Fabi on +1, 3.5 out of 6. Hikaru and Vidit are now at 50%. Now quite a big gap has opened up between them and Abasov and Firouzja. So on the women's side, we had 4 decisive games today. 3 with the black pieces, which is kind of incredible. And only Zhongyi, the winner, won with the white pieces. She is still atop the women's standings, and she needed that win because Garechkina is hot on her heels. Tan is now on +3, while Garechkina moves to +2, 4 out of 6. Lagno, +1. And Lei Tingji, by winning today, gets back to 50%. So Vishy, why don't you walk us through the game that Pragg won against Abasov?
Sure. Okay. So this was quite an intense struggle, but I'd like to take you to this moment at the end. Paradoxically, if black plays rook d6 here, it's totally out of danger because rook a6, the rook gets active, and the rook and bishop actually stop these pawns getting anywhere. But Nijat walked into a very, very deep and hidden trap, which is very beautiful. So rook a6, all exchanges of the rook mean that the pawns proceed unopposed. So black came here, and now Praggnanandhaa found this brilliant move, knight d7. Now watch this knight. It controls that square. So we'll see how important that is in a few seconds. The last hope was rook b5, though definitely Nijat is in a bad way here. But after king g7, rook a5, king g6, and I think what he missed was a4. And if black captures here, all the squares that the bishop needs to get to are mine. The bishop can't go to e5 to come to d4. It can't come to c5. It can't go to b8. So the pawn is going to queen. Nijat lost in a slightly different way. a5, gf2, a6, and Pragg won the game. Nijat had defended extremely well until the final segment, but once again, he loses at the end.
And the other decisive game, it came much earlier between Vidit and Firouzja. We were pretty excited to see Firouzja play the classical Sicilian instead of his usual Najdorf. And Vidit responded with bishop c4, which is much less popular these days than the Rouser. So it was kind of like a flashback to the 1990s when this line was very popular. Queen b6, and then Firouzja gave us a little surprise by protecting the pawn with queen to d8. After a few quite typical moves, white does have a nice attacking position. The queen returned to b6, wasting some time. And Firouzja, in a position that, it's dangerous for him, obviously, but he went for a move that, I don't know, it could be called a little bit reckless, because obviously that pawn does not look like the safest pawn to take. Black has little development and white is completely developed. So here, Vidit's challenge was finding the best way to win, and he was up to it. He found this beautiful pawn sacrifice with e5. The pawn cannot be taken because the opening of the d file is too critical, and the queen is going to run into trouble no matter where she goes. If she goes to h4, then this attack, taking the knight and the checkmate on d7 is the problem. And if she goes here, she gets trapped like this. And again, the bishop does the job. So Firouzja was forced to not capture the pawn. He went knight d7, but then this pawn on d6 was just a bone in the throat, as it wasn't allowing him to develop properly. And actually, Vidit did not have a problem winning from this position. So now let's take a look at the women's games. We have a game that Katerina Lagno won with the black pieces against Vaishali.
Yes. So today the women had 4 decisive results, reversing the second round. This was a great combat. Vaishali should have taken with a knight, which would have justified the whole concept. This knight landed on the b4 square. As you see, this will be important. Bishop c4, queen takes d4. Again, not necessary. If you see the right idea, you could capture with the bishop. Bishop f6. And then Katerina played knight f4. Now, it's very hard to see that rook e3 is totally harmless. Queen d1 check. I just go back. I bring the bishop back. And if you take, I take. And this is a draw. Rook e3 is hard to see because it's very easy to think that in this position, that somehow knight e2 will happen or something, but there is no way of getting it. After knight over here, I can just play rook takes f4. And after knight a1, knight c3. So rook e3 would have defended. It's not the easiest move, but I think it would have been possible to find it by elimination. Unfortunately, Vaishali took queen takes b4, excuse me, this move, queen takes b4, bishop takes f3. Now, even bishop f1 loses to knight takes g2. There is just bishop takes g2, queen g5 wins nicely. So she played g3, and after queen d4, the game was over very quickly.
Yeah. And well, we have 4 decisive results in the women. We're going to show you the most interesting ones. And certainly the one by the leader, Zhongyi, over Anand Muzychuk was a highlight. Now, Tan had been doing well from the opening, and she was attacking ferociously. Here you can see she sacrifices her bishop in order to get the queen in and lands this knight c6 move. Takes on g5, she's completely winning. And here she just needs to capture this pawn with the bishop. Basically the line goes bishop takes, 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 and knight e7 is one of the strong moves, although I think we were also looking at queen f7, so there were multiple ways to win. Instead, Tan surprises us with rook takes f6, kind of an unnecessarily giving up more material than she has to. Anna takes it. Now Anna's not losing anymore. She's actually up a rook. And of course, it's a super complicated position, but we were expecting her to just bring this bishop into the defense by taking the pawn. At some point, white just kind of runs out of attacking pieces. I think the line goes like knight takes g8, queen takes g8, queen e7, and queen f7 blocking, and then we have rook takes e6, and in the end, black gets out of danger into some kind of endgame like this. But of course, it's a lot to calculate, but still, the move bishop e6 is pretty intuitive. Instead, she goes rook e4, trying to bring the rook into the game, but unfortunately, this gives Tan a beautiful win. Rook takes. And knight takes, and now she captures the rook. She doesn't have to move her queen because if the queen gets captured, it's a fork, and she'll be up a piece. And then she forces a queen trade, and that's the end, because literally nothing black can do than take the queen, but if the pawn takes, it promotes. There's nobody around to stop the pawn, not the king, not the bishop, and not the knight. So that's how Tan moves to +3. Very convincing result for her. And that is all for our wrap up of the day 6. It was a great day of chess. It's going to make it super exciting for the rest of the tournament, Vishy.
Yes, and we have lots of high-scoring players, and the tournament's very poised beautifully, I think, for us.
So we're going to see you guys tomorrow for round 7, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time.